been working really hard to get back to full health, and I feel like probably over these last couple of weeks is when I've probably started feeling my best. Obviously, my ankle kind of didn't allow me to really see where my groin was at. It was, I think, my second full court workout back when we were in, I don't even know what month that would have been, but I just went to kind of make a move, and unfortunately my ankle like completely rolled all the way forward, and probably one of the worst sprains I've dealt with. But I've just tried to stay positive the best I can, and but I honestly feel like I'm in a really good spot. And people don't always realize, I mean, people that are kind of in the basketball world, or whether if you're in other sports too, like when you're injured, it's honestly more work than when you're playing. So I've spent so much time here in this building this season just trying to get healthy, and trying to kind of just get back to 100%. And honestly, I think that, if I never was, I obviously played that game in Connecticut, and that's where I kind of felt some more pain in my right groin, and then obviously had some tests and other things done. And there was no decision of like, this is the end of my season. I had full intention of returning, and I think in a way that was probably positive for me, because that's how I approached every single day. I came in here like I was going to play, I was going to get back out on the court, and it probably would have been even more devastating and crushing knowing that I was never going to be able to put my uniform back on for the rest of the season. But you just approach it like every single day you attack and get better, and it'll be the same for me going forward. Like, that work doesn't stop. And I think I think I've had really good perspective on it all, and that's probably what I'm most proud of too.
No, welcome inside Indiana Fever Insider Live. Brian Haenchen, Chloe Peterson, Tony East here with you on Fever Exit interview day. Can you hear us, Tony? You're making faces.
I'm making a face because if my eyes deceive me, you guys haven't gone home. Go home, guys.
We have not. We've been sitting here pecking away on our keyboards like good little soldiers for the past 3 hours since this ended. So we're all in great places mentally. It was exit day for the Indiana Fever. As you heard there, Caitlin Clark discussing her recovery, the injuries. That seems like a good place to start. We also heard from Kelsey Mitchell, had some things to say. Lexi Hall in her future. Sophie Cunningham did a lot of Sophie Cunningham things. Stephanie White spoke. We'll have an announcement hopefully soon regarding that. Amber Cox, the team GM, spoke. Chloe, why don't you start us off with thoughts on what we heard from Caitlin Clark today?
Yeah, well, obviously she talked about her injury and everything that happened since I think we talked to her, on July 19th during All-Star. So, she talked a lot about recovery, and, she suffered that first groin injury on July 15th. And then she said it was her second full court individual workout. I should clarify that she suffered an ankle sprain that was on August 7th. And those two things kind of together just prevented her from testing out her groin to make sure she'd be able to come back to play. And, as she mentioned, as, Amber Cox mentioned as well, she just ran out of time to return.
Yeah, I wanted the clarity that she could provide to the extent that she could provide any, which is why I swung in with that first. Like, why are you actually out at the end? Because the thing that was like the newest, I guess, information we got today, granted this is from a person who's been very healthy throughout her basketball life until this season, was that it was the worst ankle sprain she's ever had, and like described the direction that it went. So yeah, clearly, like, even if the groin was the thing still keeping her out by the end, which sounds like there's some gray area there, it had to have, and look, we used this intuition when it happened, it had to have slowed her timeline of recovery, one, and then two, like, think about when that happened, August. Like, by the time they get back from that West Coast trip that everybody has described as so pivotal for the chance that she returns, she not only has to, like, get healthy, she has to get in shape, right? And that's something else that she said was, like, you guys can see me spot shooting and moving around. Like, running full court is totally different. And so getting her into condition was also a big challenge, which I suppose it's all possible that she was close, or, like, in a dream scenario could have still returned, but it wasn't worth it to them to push her through that, which is why 5-on-5 by the end of the current month right now is the actual dream. So I do think that was all important clarity, and that's why I swung in with that first. It's like, we've heard a lot of from someone else, or like, we guess because we can see you, but like, please tell me what happened, in what order.
Yeah, and that I think the end of October thing for getting back to 5-on-5 was a lot of good clarity, because I know she was obviously left off the playoff roster, and that was a big talking point where, if the Fever made the finals or if the Fever made the semifinals, could she have come back if she was working out with the team? And, but she was just never going to work out with the team, even if they had made the finals. She would have never come back. And I think that's a lot of things people were wondering about in terms of how long it's been taking her to get back. And it was a lot of good clarity on how long it's been taking her.
And the whole playoff run was 2 weeks plus a few days. Like that, it felt long because it was a lot of games, but like it wasn't calendar wise that much more real time of like human recovery, right? So, I totally understand what they did given when it was in the season, even though I'm glad she admitted this too. We're not crazy people for all assuming that somebody ramping up is in fact trying to return to play basketball. And this isn't just some big conspiracy sham. Thank you, Caitlin, for confirming the obvious.
Staying with Caitlin Clark, tangentially, Stephanie White said the top priority is making sure that she's healthy. Mentioned building up endurance and continuing to move forward in terms of mechanics and making sure that she stays on track with the mechanical side of things. And then she also said that at some point she's going to have to play some 5-on-5 this offseason and pointed out that it'll have been a long time between actual game action for Caitlin Clark when she returns at the beginning of next season. So they want her to get some 5-on-5 action this offseason over the winter. Described it as baby steps. So a lot of the same stuff we were doing in the regular season, except now with more tangential goals and concrete steps to take. But the 5-on-5 thing was interesting. And then in following up with Caitlin about what opportunities there would be, she pointed to USA Basketball. I was curious where she'd go, and she went with USA Basketball.
Yeah, I mean, USA Basketball has a camp. I don't think they've announced the specific camp dates, but it's going
March
to be
something you've heard, right?
March something. It's
That's what I've heard.
usually in the same week as the Final Four, which is what we saw the issue with in 2024. Yeah, when Caitlin went to the final, she was going to go to this USA Basketball camp, but then she couldn't because Iowa advanced to the Final Four, and then she wasn't picked for the Olympic team, all of that stuff. But anyway, there is the USA Basketball will be going to the World Cup in September. And that's, a crew of WNBA players. The WNBA season is going to go on a hiatus for the 2 weeks that this World Cup is going on. And there's a camp for it in March. And obviously, Caitlin is expecting to go to that camp. And I think she's expecting to be, be at full health for that camp as well.
She's one of the 5 best players in the league, period. Yeah, she'll be at the USA Basketball.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bulls.
And new management, new coach, right? Like actually a big USA opportunity too.
And
Don, right?
Deladon and Carol Lawson running the show now. So
and the World Cup in Germany is already they're already using her to try and sell tickets, along with Emma Miesemann, whose name they spelled wrong. But
yes.
Delightful.
But I would have assumed, regardless of what we heard today, that would be her next thing we see her at. So I'm glad she didn't even really drop a hint. She just straight up said USA Basketball. So
yeah,
still months away from seeing her on the court, but it's coming.
She's exploring her options, but USA Basketball, I think, was the way that she phrased it.
But I'll say this, that's before Fever Camp. I think they'll be happy that she has something happening this time, because I've wondered this for forever, and this is just purely Tony Brain wonder and not actually reporting. I have wondered how much going from the full 40-game season and playing all of it to not playing at all for several months impacted her body going into this season. So
there's somebody flying around by us. This is really fun to watch. So if I get distracted, that's why.
Are you guys seeing the volleyball court that's out there still?
Yeah, it's getting set up right now. Somebody's coming in on the high rope, so it's going to be some high rope volleyball, as you can hear.
Very nice.
So we may cut away from live programming to just show you somebody flying through the rafters. Real quickly, though, if you want to get involved with the show, we will have a Q&A. Chloe and I will be fielding questions, so get involved in live chat. You can do so there. Amber Cox, by the way, on Caitlin Clark, another notable quote. She says, "I'm so looking forward to next year is going to look like for her, because I think we're going to see another level, which is unbelievable to even think about." She went on to say that, "I'm unbelievably proud of her. She's a great teammate, great in the locker room, consistently showed up in the same way as a leader with her voice, which is really hard to do when you're going through something like that. I'm proud of her and looking forward to having her back on the court." So hopefully that puts to bed the nitwits who say the Fever did not want her to play. They wanted her to play. She wanted to play. It's for the best that she did not play this year, and they did not rush it. Just wanted to put that out there
fair.
for the sake of Chloe's sanity. The other thing that Caitlin Clark addressed, and something that I was certainly looking forward to hearing was Nafisa Collier's comments, everything going on with the WNBA. I'll let you guys start with your thoughts, and we'll play a clip from Sophie Cunningham talking about Nafisa Collier. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, Nafisa Collier kind of went scorched earth on Kathy Engelbert on the WNBA on Tuesday during the Lynx interviews, and it seems like she did not tell anybody she was doing it. We talked to Brianna Turner on Tuesday. Brianna Turner is part of the union executive committee. She said they didn't know about it. We talked to Caitlin, obviously, today, and Caitlin said she didn't know that, Nafisa Collier was going to mention a conversation that she had with Kathy Engelbert about, Caitlin, Paige Becker's, Angel Reese, where, Kathy Engelbert mentioned Caitlin should be grateful for the WNBA because she wouldn't make $16 million in endorsements without the platform the WNBA gives her. So seems like obviously Nafisa Collier did this kind of her own merit, but since then, a lot of WNBA players have come out in support of her. Lexi Hull talked in support of her, Chelsea Gray, Asia Wilson, Sophie Cunningham today, in very strong statements too. And those are just the people, I've talked to. Kelsey Plum talked to The Athletic. Just a lot of players have come out in support of Nafisa Collier, and a lot of them have said they are very far apart on these CBA negotiations, which is not a good sign for the league, as the CBA expires on October 31st, and no official WNBA business can happen without a new CBA.
Okay, so Kathy talks tomorrow, and I would very much like, no one will ask her this because it's not like that important to what's going on. I would like Kathy to characterize her conversations with Fee that were now made public. Did she exactly say these things? How close on the mark was she? Because if she actually said anything close to like, this platform of the W is why Caitlin has these endorsements, give me a break. She got them, like as stated today, she got them in college. She got them in a different platform. Like, we know that already, right? And so if some of the things that she is claiming to say about like how her league is impacting the popularity of her players, sure, it's a platform for them to play, but it just seems so off the mark that I would like I can't wait to hear how she addresses it, because if what Fee is saying is correct, like, I totally get why players are so just, among the many things that have happened this season, bothered by leadership and want to see some form of change or differences, because it's all kind of strange. And I think Caitlin's answer, albeit in a very roundabout, thought about it a lot before she got up on the stage kind of way,
Diplomatic way.
Very diplomatic, yes, about relationships, was a good way of putting it, right? Because if, like, what did Elena Deladon say? That she hasn't heard from Kathy Engelbert since she retired. She's like a legend of the game, right? Like, you have to have those relationships with the players and the people on the court to be a commissioner of the league. Even though you are serving the owners, they are the product. People come to watch them. And yes, you are sort of giving them a platform, but they can play anyway. They just started their own league. They did that last year. It's a thing that happened. So, like, you have to have way more open and understanding dialogue than this, especially at a time where your league is like getting chipped at by people who are really unhappy about certain parts of it. So I really appreciate the way Fee went about it. We'll see what it actually leads to, because it's a very, very contentious month for the WNBA. I think the odds of an agreement on October 31st seem somewhat low at the given moment. We'll see how I feel after Kathy talks tomorrow. But I thought Caitlin's responses were pretty good and diplomatic today. And Sophie went a less diplomatic way at it, which was funny, even though she was mostly talking about officiating. And it's a very odd time to see the league rise up all together like this against their leadership because of the timing with the CBA. Like, I guess that is the time to do it. But like, you'd think if they were so invested in getting it done by the deadline, they'd want a symbiotic thing. But they're currently pitting it as players versus league. And that's why I totally get why Kathy wouldn't reach out to Caitlin after something like that. Like, what's she going to say? If she actually said that, she's not going to say sorry because she believes it. So what's she going to say that actually matters? So it's all just so interesting to me. And I thought the Fever handled it as well as you can today to make it very clear that they are also frustrated without like picking up a flamethrower and blowing the flames around.
What was brilliant, a lot of people have pointed this out, so it's not an original take by any means, but it is brilliant how Fee handled this, where she's getting the Angel Reese base, the Paige Becker's base, and the Caitlin Clark base all involved, all energized, all activated with that one conversation. Like you can tell, like she'd been holding that card and she played it brilliantly. Like she played it perfect. And I see somebody in the chat, like just being silly, saying, suggesting that she's salty that they lost. Them losing doesn't matter. Like they could have won the freaking championship, and I think she still would have said that because it's bigger than wins and losses with respect to, their financial futures, the future viability of the league, and things like that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Clark.
I would suppose so. I wonder how brash she may have been if they didn't have the officiating thing to also address. But yes, that I agree that she would have given her roles in the PA, and given that the PA immediately had a statement. No, that's weird. They had a statement ready to go pretty quick after she said all that stuff. I wonder if they already had that ready. Certainly interesting time.
We are fully in posturing season, boys and girls.
That's so weird. They had that ready really fast.
Yeah, I know. Hey, speaking of things are ready, let's play Sophie Cunningham. We'll give Tony a chance to catch his breath. We'll play Sophie Cunningham and her comments on the WNBA.
I'm going to be good today. I am, because I'm just tired of our league. They need to step up and be better. Our leadership from top to bottom needs to be held accountable. I think that there are a lot of people in the position of powers in the WNBA who they might be really great business people, but they don't know shit about basketball, and that's got to change. I said I was going to be good, and I just messed up. But I do. I think everyone's frustrated when NBA players from that side of things are reaching out to us, just like in awe of how terrible it is. Like, that's saying something. That is absolutely saying something when your counterpart is feeling bad for us because of how we're getting treated. I mean, come on. And that's from leadership. That's from, I'll just leave it there. From our leadership, it's just bad. When fans and players, especially players, when we're competing at the highest level and it's like a battlefield out there, when we're agreeing on the court because of how awful the officials are, like that's saying something. Like, listen to us. We're not going to come for your heads, but I think there is room for improvement to change the criteria when the whole league is asking for it. But when the leadership isn't doing anything about it, why? And so I think there's just frustration. The game's not fun to watch because everyone's just trying to kill each other, because that's how you're going to survive. Otherwise, you get injured. I don't know. It just sucks. Our game is changing, and yeah, we want it to be physical, but at the same time, like, you still want to watch good basketball. And when they can't get that under control, it's not fun.
Tony, what did you think of what Sophie had to say this afternoon?
Yeah, it felt like hers was more pointed specifically at officiating, I would say, given the way that she talked about the basketball part of it, that they don't know about basketball. Not that she had nothing to say about leadership and business operations and things of the like. In fact, she was very pointedly saying that they're better at the business part, which is fair, though. I think that has become such a huge storyline this season in the way that everybody hates the officiating. And sometimes I think it's too much belly aching, and sometimes I think they're right. And they do have valid points about, the training and the refs leaving the league and things of that sort that are worth getting into. But yeah, I mean, Sophie was frustrated about this stuff, as we've seen on every social media platform under the sun, like the whole season. This isn't just some new thing for her riding the wave of, a player groundswell. This is her being like, yes, this is and has been a huge problem, and leadership that she clearly does not like or trust right now needs to figure it out.
I think a lot of it too, to Sophie's point, where, the WNBA has a lot of good business people, but not really good people. I think that's a lot more of the job than maybe people in the WNBA realize. Like, we were talking about it before, like Adam Silver reaches out to LeBron James. Adam Silver talks to a lot of the players in the NBA, and Kathy Engelbert just does not do that. And I think that's a bigger part of, being a commissioner, and like having those relationships is more than what people in the WNBA realize.
Sophie did go after, I'm trying to pull up the story now. She went in on the officiating, was obviously the big thing, as Tony mentioned, but she did talk about the CBA, and she pretty directly acknowledged the possibility of a lockout, which has obviously been hanging over this league For a while, Chloe, we talked about that on the very first show in the bowels of Gamebridge Fieldhouse. And she said, I promise you, we're not going to pay until they give us what we deserve. And that, referring to a lockout, is where it's headed, unfortunately, which would be the dumbest basketball decision business-wide ever, considering all the momentum the W has now. Very pointed, very direct. We'll see. What do you think, Tone?
Yeah, I think that she will be correct if the lockout lasts into the start of the season, right? Like, it's actually totally reasonable to me that there would be an air quotes lockout from like November 1st to Christmas or something if they can't agree to something. And maybe they could just extend the deadline in that case if that happens. But if it actually impacts their season, yeah, it's like the worst possible time for that to happen, right? Like they just announced. We just all got a press release about their new TV deal with USA Network. Like, people are buying their product even more right now. The ratings, even without Caitlin Clark right now, have been pretty damn good, like better than ever. Like, people really are into the product. You can't just all of a sudden, have this be the time where it's like, well, we're digging our heels in. Like, you have to keep going. You have to try. Like, growth has to be a part of your concedings as the league at some point. So I agree with her that it would be a business disaster for the league. But I think, to be clear, it's if it impacts basketball. If they get it figured out by like February, yeah, it's going to be a really goofy offseason, but not the end of the world. So that I think is a key clarification point there.
Yep. I think also, this is totally my speculation, but I think, the lockout eventually affecting things is going to put a lot of pressure on the WNBA because obviously, they're trying to have a double expansion draft in December. And that can't happen unless they have a new ratified CBA. And then free agency in January can't happen until they have a new CBA. And, if they don't get this CBA ratified, if they can't, have this expansion draft, you're going to have Toronto, you're going to have Portland. They're both going to be pissed because they don't know who their players are going to be. And that just gives Toronto and Portland less time to figure their stuff out before their first season ever. I guess not for Portland, but you get what I mean. Their first season in the league. But, I think if it starts affecting like big events that are on the WNBA schedule, that's going to put a lot of pressure on the league because it seems like the players aren't going to budge.
Who do you think is going to flinch first?
The league.
Yeah, I don't know. It's always so easy to say, and I my gut would be to say the league too, but like, they have money and the players, the other thing that's interesting about this is, with absolutely no offense to any one specific player, usually the spokesmen are like good, famous players who make money outside of the W, either playing somewhere else or from endorsements. Like, a lot of the players in the league like need the money. They need labor to be happening, to be paid and continue. So like, they're representing them as well. So it'll be very interesting to see who does budge and what the players are willing to concede. Like, the NBA just went through this 2 years ago, and like, in the end, it's a CBA that now the players are like, dang, this kind of sucks, right? Like, you have to be cognizant of what you're willing to give up the whole time because both sides will have to concede. That's how negotiation works. So I think the league will ultimately budge first. I agree, for the reasons that we've already talked about. Growth has to be equally important to them at some point, and the things they're actually getting or giving up in this, but it is rather tenuous right now.
Any other CBA things, Tony? I know you have to run. We're on a bit of a time schedule. Is there
I got 15 more minutes.
CBA-wise? Okay, cool. Anything else CBA-wise you guys wanted to talk about?
No.
Good on that front. Kelsey Mitchell spoke as well today. Boy, that's harrowing. Like, the more that I hear about what she went through with, how do you pronounce it?
I don't even know. I've been calling it rhabdo. That's what people call it.
Rhabdo, yeah.
I think it's rhabdomyolysis.
Yeah. It's scary, where she just lost feeling in her legs. Her legs just kind of gave out. She leaned on the referee. Chloe, I'm going to play the audio because it addresses some of the things that I've seen on Twitter, the questions that people are asking, which are fair, and then some of the ones that are a little less fair.
I feel fine. As far as like, I don't think I could play in a real game for like another. I mean, realistically, I would hope not that it's over. I could just take some rest, but I probably should just take some time to kind of reset because I lost a lot of fluid. I think in that experience alone, I kind of just felt scared because for a while, my legs weren't, so numb and so paralyzed, so to speak, that I couldn't feel my feet. So I just think resetting getting my bloodstream back flowing, to be able to and I think it just happened over usage, man. I think to answer your question, I think it was just, for one, if I'm honest, I never played that long. I never made it to a postseason. Going forward, like I said, knowing what my body needs, but I think specifically just making sure that, any athlete, competitively, if you want to be at the top of your game, you kind of got to just keep pouring in. And so I wouldn't have changed anything for me, if I'm honest. I wouldn't have changed anything that I've done, any practice, any workout that I've done prior to, because it was worth it. I guess I played literally till my wheels fell off, like I told you guys. So, like I said, I'm just gonna keep learning the body part of it. But I wouldn't trade it in at all. It was a once in a lifetime experience, and I trade my body in every time.
Kelsey Mitchell on what she went through with rhabdomyolysis. Chloe is an expert on rhabdomyolysis. She's adding it to her list of shot clocks, CBA negotiations, hardship waivers, and other random bits of fun facts and intel that she learned this season.
Well, all of this is from the Cleveland Clinic, so credit to the Cleveland Clinic website. But apparently, rhabdomyolysis, rhabdo, happens when, as Kelsey Mitchell said, overuse, overexertion. It can also happen after muscle injuries or trauma, or if you're on specific types of medication. And it basically happens when muscle tissue starts to disintegrate. And then the disintegration of that muscle allows components of the muscle to leak into the bloodstream and kidneys, which can be toxic. In some more severe cases, it can cause kidney damage, but most can recover with extra fluids and a lot of rest. So basically her muscles locked up because she wasn't getting enough, or muscle started disintegrating in some place, and then that started leaking into the rest of her body.
Yeah, I've read that it could really damage your kidney if not properly treated. It's very severe and scary. The fact that it happened how it did almost was helpful, because it got her to a hospital where she could get fluids right away and not at some other perhaps random time, albeit the overexertion part of it is usually, and I would predict, even though I don't know that in this case, because it's sports, that's probably a major factor in this. And that's very scary. And even she was like, I couldn't feel my leg. I couldn't move it. It locked up. And it's alarming. That's scary. That's freaky. And, I think that it's good that she's okay. I'm glad that she admitted she wouldn't have played in the next series, because I think that would have been a very frequently asked question. But yeah, it's a very threatening thing if not well treated or addressed. And so still very scary, obviously. I've never seen this injury before, covering men's or women's pro basketball. So I'll be fascinated to see what comes of this, or how long she has to be off her feet, or if she does Unrivaled, or how this all works for her, because time off her feet now is even more valuable after something scary like this.
Yeah, this is an injury I've heard a little bit before. Mostly it was in football players, but I asked Steph White today too of was there anything that could have, obviously with Kelsey saying it was from overexertion, were there any symptoms that, in hindsight, maybe coaching staff or training staff could have caught on? And Steph White really was like, they haven't really thought of rhabdo being a thing in basketball too, because nobody's really heard of it in a basketball sense. I asked, Alex Philippou, ESPN, she's been covering women's basketball for years. She's never seen this in a women's basketball context. So it's just something that's relatively unknown in that. And, I asked Kelsey Mitchell too, were there any symptoms you had, or maybe symptoms that she's thought in hindsight were leading up to this? And she talked about how obviously she was fatigued with playing game 4 on Sunday, then going all the way to Las Vegas, and then playing game 5, but she prepared the same. But it was also her time of the month as well, and she was having period cramps. So she thinks that maybe she was having some of these symptoms of rhabdo that she just attributed to having period cramps. So there are a lot of things that go into having these symptoms where they can very easily be attributed to something else as well. So I think it's just something that now that it's happened, the fever, the training staff, Steph White, Kelsey Mitchell, they're all going to be more cognizant of these issues. And Kelsey also mentioned that the doctors told her it was a once in a lifetime kind of thing too.
You hope that they're right. I'm glad you cleared that up. I was confused which one of you was Haenchen and which one was Chloe.
Thank you. The commenters were too, because for us it looks correct. Like now it looks wrong for us, but upon looking at the live stream proper, I see that it was in fact reversed. So clears it up. Tony, you've been talking to me the whole time. I apologize. Explains the weird pauses. Something else interesting. You had Amber Cox talking about how Kelsey Mitchell is top priority this offseason, and then Kelsey Mitchell asked about her future. I will just play that so people can hear it within its full context and tone of voice and all that good stuff.
I hope we got a league. So for there, I hope that when it's all said and done, we can, have a season period for all the girls, for every person that's, aspirations to be in the league and be in the W. I think for one, that's the start, being on the same page with that. Bless you. Being on the same page for that and kind of just, making sure we have a league to start. No matter what happens, having a league is kind of big for us. And I think individually for me, I'm going to take my time, figure out what my family needs. Losing a parent is a big shift. And so, I take in consideration how my mom feels now. I take in consideration how my siblings and, my intermediate family, my dad's mom is still alive, my grandmother. And so that's big for me. And so, family is big for me. And so I think talking to them and figuring out what's best for us and for what I need internally is always going to be important. And I think that takes time. But I will say to Indiana Fever, like 8 years, it's going to be a lot to talk about because I have so much love and so much aspiration for this place. And I think when the time is right, the great conversations will be had. But Indy is like my second family and everything I've been through the last 8 years. I don't think Indianapolis, Indiana, I don't think there's any other place that was greater for me, the growth and all that. So I think the right conversations will be had. And when it's time, I guess we'll all know.
Kelsey Mitchell on her future, again, hinting at the possibility of a lockout. Hope we have a league next year. Hope we have a season. Tough but fair. And then she goes in talking about her family and how that impacts the decision-making process for her.
Yeah, she's talked about her family a lot. I talked with her about, the death of her dad in March 2024, and she kind of since then, her family lives in Cincinnati, so she has been able to, being with the Fever, when they have off days, it's only an hour and a half, 2-hour drive back there. And she's made that drive multiple times for day trips. And I think that's something she really values in seeing her family a lot, her family coming here, being able to be at a lot of games or just being easily accessible in a way. And obviously, with any player entering unrestricted free agency, she doesn't want to say anything. And I think she will probably explore her options, and then she will also likely be cored by the Fever again because she has another core year available, assuming that does not change in the new CBA, but everything could change in the new CBA, so who knows?
Okay, a couple things. One, Chloe, you were there last year. I don't remember the exact words, but I will float this to you first. I would say tonally and generically, this sounded a lot like her answer last year to the same question. Would you agree? Yes.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that stood out to me as okay, last year when she was answering, I was like, this is kind of a long explanation for an answer. That's yeah, probably. I'll probably be back, right? Thing two is, when we were asking these free agency questions, I want to know specifically their thoughts on the Fever and the chances of return. But anytime someone's going to ask me until that we know the rules, I feel like we just have to shrug, right? And I think I appreciated Sophie for acknowledging that. She's like, I have no idea if free agency is going to look like. I have to entertain offers. There's a chance the money is way greater. All these teams have a lot of room. Who knows if core is going to be a thing anymore, right? Yeah. So to follow up what you said, Chloe, if the rules are the same, that's great, Kelsey. If you want to explore other stuff or do what's best for your family, you're probably going to get cored and be back for another year, right? That seems like a very logical answer to me. If she has any semblance of wanting to be back, great. Here's the most money you can get. Come on back, right? But it's going to be very awkward for all these when any player who said, Lexi said it, Sophie said it, we'll talk about all of them. Yeah, I'd like to hear. I'd love to, stay in Indy. That's great. I'm sure the Fever would like to have you back. You all played well for the team. That's why we talked to you today. No one knows the rules. No one knows how much money these other teams are going to have. It's actually impossible to know with an expansion draft and all these unknowns what is going to happen, even though the assumption should be that teams will do the smart things and keep their good players.
Yep, that's the thing, too, I've had a lot of people asking me about the expansion draft. And who can the Fever protect? How many people can the Fever protect? What's going to go on with the unrestricted free agents? And I'm like, I just don't know. Nobody
Right.
knows. And I'm sure that's very frustrating for, the front offices themselves, because they're trying to plan for 2026 when, first, they don't know if 2026 is even going to have a season. Secondly, they don't know how many people they'll be able to protect in the expansion draft. They don't know the terms of the expansion draft. They don't know the terms of free agency. As you mentioned, core may not be a thing at all anymore. Like, who knows if restricted free agency will be a thing? That'll probably be a thing, but like
A little farther, Peterson.
yeah, that'll probably be a thing. Who knows? Maybe no one will have any contracts, and it'll just all be free for all.
Maybe they'll just redraft the teams for every game. It'll be like
Yeah.
a pickup game in the yard
Yeah,
where you pick a player, they have to fly out there. So we're gonna see Caitlin Clark in like Vegas and wherever the hell else.
yeah. That's kind of like Athletes Unlimited. They draft their teams differently every week. But anyway, the moral of the story is nobody knows what's going on. We don't know what's going on. Players don't know what's going on. Coaches don't know what's going on. Front office doesn't know what's going on.
Exactly. Amber doesn't know. That's why I asked her, and she had to be like, "Yep, we'll do what's best for the team with what we're allowed to do." I'm like, "Yep, okay."
In hindsight, it is kind of silly for the WNBA to set this up so that there is an expansion draft at the same time as the CBA expiring at a time of when there's going to be labor unrest. Like it seems like poor planning across the board. Not to go off on a tangent,
when
but
has the league been good at planning?
that's a fair point. That's kind of what I was getting at.
You think they wanted to have 13 and then 15 teams in consecutive years?
Honestly, maybe. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. Like, why the
Chloe
hell?
was there. Chloe was the only other person there when I asked Kathy about them having 13 teams, and we both looked at each other like, "Wait, that's an odd number. That's not an even number of teams."
Tony just you just shed some light on them. First time they're hearing of this.
Chloe got props that day. She came with the data, and Kathy said, "Ooh, I love data."
Good for
I
you,
don't even remember
Chloe.
what data I came with.
I don't
That
know
was-
that I like you standing for the man, but good for you, Chloe.
Okay.
Good question. When was it was all? I don't remember what you
It was
had.
It was NBA All
It was
Star.
NBA All-Star, but I don't remember what you had all the data for.
I don't
It was
either.
very impressive.
That's just Chloe, man. She's the MVP of this whole thing. That's the conclusion we draw there.
Good times. We woke
Yeah.
up so early for that. Holy smokes.
That's crazy. Chloe once. Aw. So sweet. It's very nice.
So-
It's a lot nicer than some of the other things. It's toxic today in the chat, which is really wonderful. We're soft. Lexi Hall. Tony, you mentioned everybody's kind of talking about their futures. Sophie went one way. Lexi Hall on her future. We got the video clip. Might as well play it. But Lexi spoke very highly on her time in Indiana.
And I'm a restricted free agent, so I think that changes things a little bit. But I've loved my years here in Indiana. So obviously with a lot of uncertainty, you don't know what's to come, but I've built a life here. And I love this franchise. I love the people. I love the fans. So we'll see what comes.
Nice, short, sweet clip, which is probably better for radio. If I was better at my job and not as rusty on radio, I would have kept these clips shorter. I apologize. But Lexi Hall, very concisely, she's loved her time on Indy. She has a home here, a good base here.
Yeah, I mean, her fiance moved out here they met at Stanford. He works something in business. I don't really know. He got a job out here. They bought a house last offseason out here. I think she has a pretty good base in Indianapolis too, and I wouldn't be surprised if she wants to stay here long term.
Agreed. Honestly, I think every free agent that we talked to today, I would not be surprised if they were back on the team next year, right? So, yeah, but we'll see.
Oh, really? You wouldn't be surprised if everybody's back, including Natasha Howard?
No, I wouldn't be surprised if she was back. She's a good player. I think.
Surprised is what you say, yeah.
Yeah, I think of the four that are free agents we talked to today, obviously I think she'd be like the least likely, air quotes, but like,
Yeah, but I think
she's a good player, a good vet on the team. Like,
yeah,
it's not like it's like no, never come back. Like, yeah, it'd be fine.
I mean, considering she's the least likely of the 4 free agents we talked to, but considering the other 3 are Kelsey Mitchell, who's been here for 8 years and could hypothetically be court again, Lexi, who said she wants to be back, and Sophie, who in so many words said she was going to entertain offers, but this was the best year she's had in the league and wants to be back.
Funny.
I think, Natasha Howard is technically least likely, but that's still more likely than the regular free agent, in my opinion.
I would share that opinion, but it depends. But also, like, it depends who's available, right? If there's a great power forward that's shockingly available, okay, maybe I would change my answer. We'll see.
Yeah. Do you think Natasha Howard? I mean, that was interesting. Just going off on that, let's just continue that thread. Natasha Howard, she talked about how playing for this team specifically kind of brought something out in her leadership. I think was what she said. It's escaping me, but basically, like, same thing as everybody else. Like, she just loved this team. They asked Leah Boston, "You want to run it back with this group?" So getting back to my original question, Tony, do you think Natasha Howard will be back?
Man, it might depend on their actual needs of free agency because she was clearly their best 4 like for most of the season. Even when they had Bonner, they started her. She was the Commissioner's Cup championship game. Like she had lots of good games, obviously, for the team, but there was also very obvious times where Stephanie White was like, yeah, I'd rather have a rebounder, a defender, a wing, whatever on the floor instead of her. So I think they would like to have her on the team. She's good, but I do wonder if there's like, would you take a bench role? Because Aaliyah Boston ain't going to the bench. Because if we can get a better/different form, maybe that'd be the move. And if not, then maybe you let her go do something else. But like, yeah, again, the core of this is simple, and I feel this way about most free agents. She's good, and if you can have good players on your team, you'd like to have good players. But I understand if they would look for something else at that spot.
Yeah, I think it was kind of streaky in the way, as you mentioned, Tony, where she had these really great games where she was, the Commissioner's Cup MVP, but then there were also some games where, Steph White kind of thought her defense was pretty unplayable, and Bree Turner took her minutes, even though Bree Turner isn't as, strong offensively. Like, I think it just depends on how big of a role Natasha Howard wants going forward, because obviously she's getting into the back half of her career too. So it just depends on how much does she value a starting role, and how much would she want to come off the bench, as you said, or just something like that.
And I agree with a lot of these comments that a better shooter would be the dream for them. If they get or a better defender, which Stephanie White very routinely turned to, because their other front court player is an established, going to have the ball hub, great defender in Aaliyah Boston. So that's the ideal. And of course, you'd love it if Natasha Howard would show up next year and make a bunch of threes. But like what she wants, what the Fever wants will matter. But also those skills and fit, like they learned their identity this year.
I maintain that the Fever should not have left Temi Fagbenle unprotected in the expansion draft.
Yeah,
he could have been pretty good for this Fever team, especially. I mean, she wasn't that strong of a 3-point shooter, but I think, she could have brought that space from 3-point range, and she was very quick for a front court player, and she was one of the first players that could grab those long court passes from Caitlin Clark too. So I think those are my thoughts that I've maintained the entire season.
Well, the theory of Damiris Dantas was great when she made 39% of her threes 2 years ago, and then they kept her, and she made less than 30% this year, and that really hurt that structure of that being a defensible choice. Temi was just better than her this year.
The other parts of it, too, to consider with this, too, is roster expansion and how many spots they can have. Like, they might have room to keep Natasha Howard and add that stretch.
That's another part of the CBA I forgot about.
And Odyssey Sims is going to be another fascinating one. That's probably something we can get to in a separate show. But, I mean, just the offseason things, once we have an idea of how things are going to look. But Odyssey Sims will be interesting. I was going to mention that to you guys. It was interesting watching Odyssey sit up there as she doesn't know what's in the future. As Stephanie White and Aaliyah Boston are sitting there after Game 5 talking about the future and winning and all that. And I just felt bad for Odyssey. Anyway, that was just an aside. Any other big takeaways? I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we wanted to hit on from exit interview days that we haven't touched on yet.
I don't think so. Nobody knows anything.
Can I say something generic?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
This is more of just like a inside baseball about our job. Chloe, you've been to these exit interviews before. Hank, I know you've been to some. Like, usually these are like, we show up and we ask a lot of the same questions to people about like the team, your spirit, your vibe, your connectedness. And the point of that is writing about what happened this year. It says everything about the Fever season that it was just like totally individualized silos today. Like every single player had like drastically different questions asked of them, which says so much about how this year went for the Fever and how uncertain their future is, even though like a lot of these players could be back. But no, that's it.
And honestly, to your point, like they could have brought in other players too, and it would have been the same
thing. Totally agree.
Totally different. Like I was thinking about that. Like I was kind of bummed we didn't get to hear from Sydney Colson today. Like it would have been fascinating to talk to her. Ari McDonald, same kind of thing. Just Odyssey Sims and how she settled in and that sort of thing would have really been fascinating to hear.
Yeah.
Are we doing comments? Can I address one that I thought was interesting?
Yeah, buddy.
Sure.
You name it, we'll put it up there.
What point guards did they keep? That was a good question.
Yes, that is a good question.
Because they have so many. And they all had different. And you brought up Odyssey, and that made me think about it again. Like, Kaylin's going to play a lot. So I want you all to think about this. Like, if you are coming to the Fever, you have to kind of be able to play with her to be the right second point guard for the Fever, or else you're only playing 5 minutes a game like Sydney Colson was, which is why she made sense in that role. She's older, and that was a good role. So, like, Sims was good. Aerie was really good. She was a great fit. Colson played well in that small role. Sims was like awesome or struggling. Even Shea Petty was like nails against the Aces, right? I think it comes down to what those players want, maybe more than what the Fever want, right? Because they aren't going to get it unless they're good at playing with Caitlin, which Aerie was, I think, the best stat of that crew. Unless they're going to get guaranteed minutes with her, they're probably going to get bigger roles on different teams. But if you had to purely rank them, I think that their second best point guard or their best backup all year was Aerie, I think, even though Sims had great highs.
I agree with that, just because obviously, as you mentioned, Aerie was the one that could play most similar to Caitlin. And that's obviously what they're going to be going for next year, because I think some of the issues they ran into this year was, when Caitlin was hurt and they had Sydney Colson running the offense, it was not the same kind of fast-paced tempo offense that Caitlin ran. It was more half court, so it was an adjustment period. But when Aerie came in, she was able to, obviously not exactly like Caitlin, but she was able to run that more fast-paced tempo offense. So I think in terms of who would be the best backup for Caitlin Clark specifically, of the people they had this season, it would be Aerie McDonald.
Agreed.
And I think Sydney Colson too, I'm not sure if she'll be able to play next season because she had her ACL tear in August. That takes usually 12 months. It took Cameron Brink 13 months to come back from that. So that might knock her out for all of 2026.
It'll be tough. Get your questions in, Chloe, Tony, and I'll get to as many as we can before.
No, I have like 2 more minutes. So
okay, just 2 minutes, Tony. We're gonna give you the floor for 2 minutes, and then we're gonna let you.
I don't need a floor.
No, you get the floor. Actually, we're probably gonna have you on for another show because again, I want to talk off season with you.
Yeah, the off season will be fascinating without knowing. No, fun. Look, like it obviously stings when it ends. I think that if there was going to be a theme today, to go back to what I just said, like I'm glad that Tosh kind of got to talk about being proud because this franchise stunk for forever. They were awful, right? To have even 8 playoff games of like, oh my God, like they're doing it. Even without their best player was like you can kind of shrug your shoulders if you work for the team. Like finally, that we got something that works here. We have a coach that knows how to win on a big stage. They have an identity that makes sense. They know how to get an identity that fits the players that they have available. So even if new players come in and some come out, which happens every offseason because that's how sports work, they have the infrastructure in place, as Stephanie White called it, level 1, 2, 3, whatever, to actually build something like great for the first time, I think, in a while. Last year, they kind of had that, but now they actually have, they brought vets in, they got the experience. So a very positive season, despite all the like craziness that happened, especially in the last 2 months.
Tony East, we thank him so much. Tony, thank you again, man, for doing the playoffs with us. It's a blast.
It's very fun.
I think you've talked yourself into maybe doing this again with us next year. Maybe I don't know. I mean, we'd love to have you because you've been wonderful. Everybody should go read Tony's story following Game 5 as well. That was really, really good. Enjoyed that. And yeah, thanks again, buddy. We'll talk soon.
We will. I'm gonna be sad not seeing you guys for a while.
It's gonna be weird.
A hole in my heart.
You get to
Come
go
cover the
meet
Pacers a little bit.
now.
Yeah, now you get to talk about Dustin. He's like discount Chloe.
Is Dustin gonna? Well, I don't know if anybody cares about this. Is Dustin gonna do these? Is that a thing that will happen?
You just get to hang out with him at Pacers.
Yeah, you just.
That's
get to
right.
see
Yes,
I don't know if he'll do these. I think he should. I don't know if he has the backdrop game to do it. But you take care, Tony. We'll talk soon.
You got it, guys. See ya.
See ya. All right, Chloe and I will hang out here for a few more minutes. Chloe has to do some writing, so get your questions in, and we'll do best to get to everybody. Why does everybody say? I believe this was in reference to Caitlin Clark.
I mean, pickup basketball is a lot different than playing against real big WNBA players who push and grab you. That's my opinion on it. Like, she was playing pickup basketball, but it was not. You can't really replicate playing against other WNBA players, as she has said multiple times before too. Like, after her first quad injury, she talked about how you can't replicate it. So I think that's what we were referring to. And she wasn't playing, big basketball, I guess, in my sense. So
yeah. Sorry, I'm starring comments as we go here to get to. I just enjoyed this one because I'm not entirely sure who they are. Monty McCutcheon and Sua Block. Chloe, he wants to see them, so if you can find those for Triple J, be wonderful. Team USA will play in a tournament in March. It's a qualifying tournament for the World Cup. Team USA already qualified, but they still participate. So Caitlin will play 5-on-5 competition.
That is correct. I did just look that up in the middle of this when I saw that comment. That is correct.
Thank you, Al
or AI.
Yeah,
whoever.
we're going to presume Al. We're going to assume the best in you, brother. Were you surprised Caitlin Clark hasn't heard any of this before? B said it 2 days ago. Some are criticizing her for not giving Caitlin Clark a heads up, especially since they share an agent and she mentioned an exact dollar amount.
I was kind of surprised. I mean, especially, it seems like Nafisa did not tell anybody, which I was kind of surprised about.
That surprised me too.
I wouldn't have been surprised if maybe like the player reps, like Lexi Hull, she's a player rep for the Fever, she didn't know. I wasn't necessarily surprised at that, but the fact that, the executive committee, Brianna Turner, even like, I'm not sure if Neko Ogumake, who is the president of the WNBPA, I'm not sure if she knew, but the fact that the executive committee did not know was surprising to me.
Agreed.
And Caitlin, obviously, because she name dropped Caitlin.
Why didn't you ask why nobody reported about Caitlin's ankle injury? Well,
we did report on it. Scott Agnes actually had the full story, I will say. Shout out to Scott for that. He reported it about a week or so after it happened. So, and that's the nature of journalism too. Like, people aren't going to tell you things immediately when they happen. Sometimes you have to dig them up. But people did report about Caitlin's ankle injury many times.
Can't the players just stay on the team they're on if they want, and the front office wants them? Unfortunately, I don't think that's entirely how it works with the expansion draft.
I mean, it depends. I mean, hypothetically, yes, but the expansion draft makes things more difficult but then you could also say the front office doesn't want them as much if they leave them unprotected in the expansion draft. So the front office can want whoever they want, but in the era of expansion drafts, which are going to be happening for a lot of the next years in the W, they're going to have to make some tougher decisions.
Just a comment here. Howard shouldn't return. She's in the prime of her career. She wants to lead a team, which I don't think is a good way to go, hence not being okay with coming off the bench. I don't know that I got the sense of that. Yeah. Did you?
I think, it depends on if she wants to be a veteran leader or an on-court leader, because I think those are two very different things. Like Sydney Colson was a veteran leader this year. She played, minimal minutes, and then she was out for the last month or so of the season. So it just depends on what kind of leader I think Natasha Howard wants to be.
I think she addressed her role to some extent. I might be extrapolating there, but I think she might have talked about that and just that. But she definitely talked about the leadership thing and, just the teammates listening. I remember talking to her about that during the season too, and just the importance of having that role within there. I'll read another comment here while Coley tends to something. Locker room culture matters. You don't get that everywhere. That was certainly a talking point among everyone. It has been through the season, and especially today, just how unique and special this was. Amber Cox said it, Stephanie White, all of the players, I think, made a point to mention it, of just how unique it was and how special it was. And unfortunately, you're never really going to be able to truly recapture that, because it's going to be different next year in different ways with different people in there. But it gives you a greater appreciation for, despite all the stuff that this team went through, just the culture inside the room. And as we said throughout, it seemed very genuine inside of there. Will they be doing an end-of-season event for the Fever Cambridge?
I have not heard anything about it. I know the Minnesota Lynx did one, but it was atypical, I would say, for the Lynx to do one. I would think in professional sports, it seems, the only time you get an end-of-season event is when you win a championship and you have a parade. So,
yeah. That's a fun one. Who among the Fever roster are you going to miss interviewing the most? There's no guarantees they'll be gone, but who do you enjoy talking to the most in this team?
I enjoy Kelsey Mitchell. I think she always has a lot of good insights. Lexi Hull too. Caitlin, obviously, we haven't talked to her a lot this season, but she's always very good as well. So
no. Sydney Colson's fun, especially depending on situation. She's always very insightful. But she knows how to let loose a little bit, cuts it up. Same thing with Sophie Cunningham, who you just, you throw anything at her and she'll go. Lexi Hull, absolutely. Like, we've talked to her about some weird things. I feel like the both of us, you with the black eye, me with the shotgunning beers after the Commissioner's Cup, and then just the unicorn horn that she had on her head. Steph White is fun to talk to too, which is a segue. We're hoping to have an episode next week with Stephanie White. Sit down with her, Chloe, and I talking to Stephanie White, just kind of a season wrap up and get the head coach's thoughts on things. So stay tuned for details on that. Coaching question, is Brianne January going to stick around?
That's a good question. I don't know. There are 5 now, because the Wings, in the day of who knows what went on in the WNBA on Tuesday, the Wings also fired Chris Coklane. So there are now 5 head coach openings in the WNBA. I imagine Sandy Brondello is going to take one of them that is not the New York Liberty. So there are 4, if you don't count wherever Sandy Brondello is going to go. So I could see her at least getting some interviews and getting some genuine interest.
It'll be very interesting. Brianne January would be a great nod for head coaching job, in my opinion. I think that's something you definitely agree with. See, Kelsey going anywhere before she could even finish talking. Amber let him know that she's the top priority. I'm assuming that's hyperbole, joking around, but
yes.
I mean also metaphorically fair. Nobody asked Amber about the DeWanna Bonner departure and how the plan on vetting players next year. Well, I feel like they vetted players pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, Steph kind of mentioned it in her interview. She talked about how the front office did a really good job in, trying to find players that fit the culture. And she said, quote, sometimes you have misses. And I don't think it's as big of a thing. Like, sometimes you just have misses. And, the DeWanna Bonner, fit was a miss. And in terms of nobody asking Amber about it, we talked to Amber about it in length in June. And I think since then, it hasn't really been a talking point. I mean, I feel like it would be very weird with who knows how many things have gone on this season with, 5 season-ending injuries, 6 if you count Damiris Dantas since then. Kelsey's condition that happened at the end of Game 5, 4 players. DeWanna Bonner's departure 4 months ago is kind of old news. And we talked to Amber about it at the time. She talked in length about it and why it wasn't a good fit. And it just wasn't really anything that hasn't been said before.
And it's kind of worked out okay for both parties, because didn't she allow, like, roster spot wise, like, didn't Ari McDonald come in after
Ari
her?
McDonald came in as well.
And that worked out really well, I would say. Obviously, Ari got hurt late in the season, but she's been a phenomenal ad. Somebody that you probably bring back. DeWanna Bonner, obviously having success in Phoenix. Like, it's okay to be happy and, at least in my opinion, acknowledge it as, it sucked and it didn't work out, but it kind of worked out in the end.
It might have been more of a talking point if Fever made it to the finals and were playing DeWanna Bonner, but they did not.
That would have been fun. I mean, it would have been fun for fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys think getting a true center and moving AV to the 4 would make a positive difference?
I don't think so. I mean, I think part of what makes AV's game so good is that she can be a back to the basket post. She can shoot the 3-pointers. She can, be a true 5 and improve her game that way too. And I think trying to move her out of the center position, a power 4, a power forward, in this day and age of the WNBA, they want them to hypothetically take more 3-pointers. Aaliyah Boston is taking more, but she's not really at that point yet. And I mean, obviously Natasha Howard wasn't this season either, but if the Fever want to make an upgrade in the front court, I would think it would be for a stretch 4 that can shoot 3-pointers at a high rate.
So they're not going to sign Angel Reese?
Probably not.
Oh. Hey, Chloe, do the Fever need some post players with decent 3-point shot? Or are they going to go with the same roster?
That's a good question. I would think, once again, back to my thought that they shouldn't have left Temi Fagbenle unprotected in the expansion draft, because I think she would have been great on this team, because she can shoot the 3-pointers, she can stretch the floor, she can run the floor. But anyway, they need somebody like that that's maybe a little faster, someone who can shoot 3-pointers at a higher rate, a more consistent rate as well.
Will you two be following the offseason happenings, have these lives to keep up to date? I love it being from Canada. That keeps us. Well, thank you. Thank you for tuning in from Canada. Yes, Chloe probably a little bit closer than me with it being her main beat, but she's going to take time off, I guess.
Go off the grid for a while and then come back.
Which is just unacceptable. Like, such a bad teammate. Just going to go off the grid like that.
Well, nothing's going to happen, hopefully.
Oh, Jesus. Why would you say that? So anyway, in her absence, I'm sure I'll be filling in some. Josh Heron, our other Fever reporter, will be helping in some. But yes, to the shows, like I said, we got one hopefully lined up for next week. We'll have shows. We'll have off-season stuff, big things as they come about. We'll do those. And yeah, let's get some more Chloe love on here. Chloe Minute, you want to be a oh wait, what? That's the wrong one. It was this one. Thank you, Chloe, for a great season
Yeah.
covering the Fever and asking the right questions. Somebody else had a good one. Thank you for your service, Chloe. Let's see. I think that's about it. Okay, big question. Fever Christmas. Do decorations go up before or after Thanksgiving?
I don't know about the Fever, but I put my Christmas tree up on November 1st.
That makes sense. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, as out of towners, I guess. It makes sense. All right, we'll do questions here for 2 more minutes, and then Chloe's got to write, and I got to write too. Do you guys know if Caitlin will train with an NBA pro trainer?
I do not know. Steph White talked about training with Caitlin in the off season, and I mean, obviously Keith Porter, who Caitlin worked a lot with last off season, he tore his Achilles, so they're gonna have to find somebody else in that case. And Lexi Hull said she's staying in town too, so she might get some workouts in with Lexi Hull, but I'm not sure of the specific training.
Yeah. This is a joke question, I assume, from a fellow Brian. Have either of you donated Sophie's GoFundMe? That's something that we neglected to mention, but I think it's funny that she set up a joke GoFundMe and said it might be for a charity or a yacht. I don't know. I found that enjoyable. Chloe, any closing thoughts here as we wrap it up for the week?
No. Well, actually, I do have a closing thought. Never mind.
Oh, wait.
My closing thought is nobody knows what's going to happen in the off season. As I mentioned earlier, the CBA governs everything, and it can change everything. So, could core service go away entirely, as Tony mentioned? Yeah. Could the expansion draft be completely different in the terms and everything? Yeah, it could. Could the entire WNBA be blown up as we know it? Maybe. So, basically,
Chloe's basketball league.
Nobody knows what's going on. Media doesn't know. Coaches doesn't know or don't know. Players don't know. The front office doesn't know. Nobody knows until the new CBA is agreed to and ratified. So,
it's a fun holding pattern we find ourselves in, buddy.
Yeah, that's my Chloe's Corner for the day. Nobody knows what's going on. So, watch The Summer I Turned Pretty, which our friend Josh here today thought that when I mentioned it today, thought I was talking about a glow up myself, which I then informed him that I was not being vain and I was watching a show. So everyone go watch the show. Everyone, get hyped for the movie. Everyone Team Conrad. That is all.
Yeah. Shout out Hy-Vee.
Yeah, shout out Hy-Vee brownies specifically. I
and
miss
the Long
them.
Johns.
There was supposed to be a Hy-Vee, let me tell you. Maybe Caitlin needs to get on this. There was a Hy-Vee planned for Zionsville, Indiana, which is a northern suburb of Indiana or Indianapolis. It was planned in literally 2023. It was supposed to be built. But now I just read a story today because I thought about it because Caitlin mentions Hy-Vee. As of September 2nd, 2025, Hy-Vee is paused because of construction costs. And I really think they just need to construct this Hy-Vee in Zionsville so I can get my brownies and possibly Hy-Vee Chinese.
Yes, bring back High Chai. High Chai is wonderful if you haven't experienced it yet. I recommend you drive out to mid-Missouri or wherever your closest Hy-Vee is to experience that.
Katie, thank you for being a long time me talking about The Summer I Turned Pretty supporter. And I also, I did the wrong one. Jennifer Lawrence being Team Jeremiah was devastating, I will say. I saw that on Twitter. Very sad.
Yeah. I appreciated this too. I'm excited to see how she mobilizes the Paige Beckers and Angel Reese's base in an homage to Nafisa Collier. We should mention, by the way, Josh, our guy, asked a wonderful question of Aaliyah Boston about books and what she's been reading.
Yes.
Aaliyah's read 8 books this summer, and she also informed us of the book and in very Chloe's Corner fashion said, you all didn't ask me about this, but I'm going to list out the plot. And she stayed for an extra, 2 to 3 minutes explaining the plot of this book. So stay tuned for next season. We introduce Boston's Book Nook to Chloe's Corner every episode of Fever Insider Live. I think that's got some real potential. Sponsored by Hy-Vee. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll save the official goodbyes and thank yous for next show, which will be our last one for a while, but we'll be back with you hopefully next week. And yeah, stay tuned to Chloe for all the updates and stuff. Bye. And